Hello, everyone, and welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Pinga, and this is Pinga at HR Corner. And on this page, we talk about everything HR and work related to help you navigate the workplace. So, here we'll be giving out tips, we'll be giving out advice. So, let us get liking, commenting, and subscribing if you haven't done so. So please do comment in the chat box and let us get engaging. Thank you. Today we'll be talking about something that touches almost everyone at every stage of when they're in the workplace or in the business or wherever, even in their personal life, and this is called imposter syndrome. For the longest time, I never knew what I was facing had a name, and so this is where we talk about it. This is where we expand about it, and this is what we learn on how to tackle it. In my case, what I did and what I'm still doing to overcome it, because it's not an easy thing that you get rid of. So let's talk about it. So the first thing that I'm going to talk about is defining what imposter syndrome is. And this is a feeling that someone gets that they are not, that they're fraud, and that, where they are, they're not supposed to be there because they don't belong there. So this is a feeling. Like I say, this is not when somebody lies and then they get the job and then they have it and everything. But this is when somebody's qualified and they're able to do the job, but they start to feel like they've got imposter syndrome. Like they're not good enough, like they're fraud where they are, they don't deserve it, and all those things. So I will talk about my journey as an HR practitioner, and where this stemmed from. So when I first started, I got my diploma when I was 19. So I started job hunting, looking for a job when I was 19, and I faced so many obstacles. One man literally told me to my face and said, "You are too young to be in HR." And I will never forget that conversation. I was so shattered. I was like, what does it mean I'm too young? And coincidentally, I got, admission to the University of Zambia, where I went on to do my degree. So in that case, it was a win situation for me. But still, those words sort of were at the back of my head, thinking, okay, am I still too young to be in HR? So after I graduated, of course, it was during the COVID period. That period was crazy. What I wanted to do ended up being cancelled. It was an NGO job, ended up being cancelled because schools were closing, people couldn't fly, and all those things. So I was just home and I didn't even want to get into HR, because in my mind I was thinking it's for older people, it's for people who are, in their 30s going up. They're the ones who need to be in HR. Maybe that's when people listen to them and not somebody who's young. So I got my first break in HR when I was 25, if I'm 24, 25, somewhere there, if I'm not mistaken. And that's when my journey started. It was let me tell you, I had the best supervisor, and that probably helped me a lot with, this imposter syndrome and everything. I got in, first 3 months, I was evaluated, and, I was given a permanent position. And I was, trying to learn as much as I could. I was a sponge and I was learning. I was implementing things, and my supervisor was like, okay, continue with this, you're doing great, and whatnot. And the more I kept on getting elevated, the more I was asking myself, do I really deserve it? Like, am I still too young to be in HR? Like, will people listen to me when I talk? Of course, people were, but it was a thing at the back of my mind. I kept asking myself, am I still good enough to be in this space? And so it went on for, I kept on rising, I kept on getting, promotions. And sometimes that imposter syndrome would hit me like, do you really deserve to be here? Do you really deserve that, you know, promotion that you've been given? Even though I worked hard, even though I learned and I applied myself in my job, and it was evident in the outcomes that I was bringing, but sometimes I would be hit with it. And so this is not something that Imposter syndrome can happen at any stage. You can be, like just entry level, and it would hit you. You can be 5 years, 10 years, 15, even 20 years in the business, and you would still have, imposter syndrome hitting you at some point. And so the most important thing is to surround yourself. One thing that I'll talk about is these are some of the steps that I use to be able to overcome. And every time I'm hit with this question, I go back and I arm myself to be able to get rid of that, nagging question of, am I good enough? So the first thing that I did is that I value feedback. And so I, ensure that when I'm having these check-ins with my manager or having one-on-ones, I'm able to ask, where do you think I'm going wrong? Where do you think I can improve? And I'm able to, get that information and put it in my work to be able to bridge those gaps, because those gaps are where sometimes the questions come from. Sometimes you make a mistake and you start asking yourself, do I really deserve to be here? That was such a small mistake. I could have done better. Like, I should know better. I've been in this role or in this business for a long period of time. I should know better. And so when you cover those gaps, it helps you to know, like, okay, yes, you're improving on this, and you don't get to question yourself too much. The second thing I would talk about is giving yourself grace. You are meant to make mistakes because you're just starting out. This is new to everyone. Nobody has it figured out. Nobody knows everything, including your manager, including, your peers or people who have been in the industry for 30, 40 years. Things are changing, especially with the onset of COVID. A lot of things have come into play that were not there before. Of course, human nature is still the same, especially for us in human resource, but things are changing. How you do your work, how you analyze it, how you take care of people. There's so many things that have come in, mental health, so many things have come in, and it's a new phenomenon. So we have to be able to be adaptive. And so give yourself grace. You are still learning, and the journey of learning most of the times has mistakes, and that's still okay. Make mistakes, you know as long as you're not deleting payroll. But give yourself grace to learn from your peers, to learn from your mentors, to learn from a lot of people. Read as much as you can, and give yourself grace when you make a mistake. The third thing that I can say is that have mentors. When you have mentors, it's easier. You don't have to make the same mistakes that they did. You don't have to walk sometimes the line that they did. So when you have a mentor, it's somebody who has gone before you, coming back to give you wisdom. That's what I call my mentor. The other thing I want to talk about is that sometimes imposter syndrome will lead you to be a people pleaser. So if you do not take care of this imposter syndrome and this feeling that you're feeling, is that you will end up being a people pleaser. You will end up taking up a lot of work on yourself because you want to prove to others that, yes, I belong in this space. And so what that does is that it will lead you to burnout, it will lead you to exhaustion, and it would lead you to being resentful of your job, and sometimes even your managers and your fellow employees, because you feel like you are doing a lot of work and they are not. They are giving you a lot of things on your plate, and they're there, on YouTube or on Netflix, and not doing their job, and you are doing the job of three, four people. And then this is uh, and this is something that would make you fall behind, because if you're doing so much, which is out of your job description, it leads you to burnout easily. And that will give you also, it will make the imposter syndrome even 10 times bigger than it is, because when you fail, now you go like, okay, yeah, now this is why I felt, I don't really belong here. But it's because you were doing things the wrong way. So you have to be very attentive to what you're thinking and what you're feeling, and be able to correct it in due time. Because if you don't, it does lead to such things as burnout, being a people pleaser, and it will take a toll on your mental health as well as your physical health. And so you need to take care of that. So, as we're closing today, I just want to remind you that you are enough and that you deserve to be where you are. Do not let anybody, especially yourself, tell you that you don't belong. So, do the best that you can and see you at the top.